We're here in the windswept Nevada desert. It's sand blowing everywhere. It's empty. It's desolate. But look on the horizon over there, a diner. Come with me as we venture into this mysterious lone diner standing here in the middle of nowhere. Let's open the door. Insert sound effect. Oh wow, look at this.
Wow.
It's Clara's diner.
Oh God. Is there a bus?
Well, you don't need a bus because it's secretly a TARDIS.
Indeed, but would she let me into it? I don't think so, frankly.
No, probably not. So, if you haven't guessed by now, we're here for part 3 of the Death of Clara series. I'm now wondering if I can milk it into a part 4 as well. Probably not, but I'm sure I'll find another reason to talk Clara at some point.
I'm sure you will.
And in this episode, we're discussing Hellbent, which is the Series 9 finale, and the culmination of the Death of Clara arc, which is not really so much the Death of Clara in the end, as I'm sure listeners will know,
Stephen
or
Moffat,
watchers will know.
So...
Stephen Moffat, can't kill anyone. Mm-hmm. So this episode continues on from the end of Heaven Sent, doesn't it? And the Doctor, well, actually, it starts...
It wrong foots us at the
yes,
start,
it does,
doesn't
it?
We're kind
of
expecting it to pick up where Heaven Sent left off.
But it doesn't
like a
immediately.
Strange interlude, a weird prologue, so which happens a lot, I think, with Stephen Moffat's Doctor.
Yeah, it
which
does.
I like. I do. Sort of wrong foots you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it jumps the timeline structure around a bit. So yeah,
you're sorry, go on.
Oh, the Doctor is.
I've made a promise to not interrupt you, and I've failed.
You failed that
so
twice.
far. Oh well, it was a good aspiration.
Good attempt. Well done.
Sorry.
So yeah, the Doctor. We see him awaken, don't we, in the desert?
He gets out of a car, I think.
He gets out of the car, doesn't he? But then later we find he wakes up, and you realise that's after the memory wipe. So he comes into the diner, and at this point.
We're asking questions.
You are, because
it's a whole new lake, because we finish Heaven Sent thinking, right, we know what's going on now. We know what's happened. Clara's dead. The Doctor's really angry. He's got through the grief. He's back on Gallifrey, and now he's going to kick some ass. He's going to kick some Time Lord butt, basically. And that's what we're kind of expecting. So when it opens in the desert, I think that initial shot, certainly with me, it made me think, we are on Gallifrey, but of course the lighting was wrong. But we're still in a sort of desert, but then we kind of pull up, the skies are blue, and there's it's the Doctor getting out of a car with his heels, kind of Western style.
Yeah,
like
it's very cowboy.
It is, isn't it? It's totally. I mean, Steve Moffat is ripping off Shane here. I think he said that publicly. That whole Western film and the novel before it. It's the lone mysterious stranger with an unknown past kind of walks into a town and starts. Which he sort of does in Gallifrey, but here it sort of plays with those tropes, and he ends up walking into a diner.
Yes, and it fits quite well with it, with that sort of unknown past and stuff, based on the events that happen subsequently in the episode that have happened before this stuff at the diner,
but we don't know. But it's like, where does this diner come from? Why is Clara dressed up like a waitress? And so, is this real? Is it in the Doctor's head? Is he on Gallifrey? Is he not on Gallifrey? For me, at this point, it's too many questions that I just don't need in this story. You know what I mean? If you think of Face the Raven, Heaven Sent, and Hellbent as a 3-act story in a way, right? I'll break down little bits, but nonetheless, that's essentially what it is, right? It's a trilogy. And like I said, you finish Heaven Sent thinking, right, okay, now we're going to do some stuff now. And then we suddenly introduce a whole bunch of other stuff. And okay, it does pay off later, but I'm just confused as to why it's kind of introduced right now, why we see Clara in the diner now. And I guess it's because actually in some ways you shouldn't think of this as a 3-act story. They're 3 individual stories. So this is the start of a new story, and in that way perhaps it kind of works, but it's asking a lot of your audience, I think.
It is, and I think because also in this bit it's played like they don't know each other, and then
we don't know that they don't know each other.
No, we don't know that. So
it turns out one of them doesn't know the other, but we don't know that at this point, as far as we're concerned. They still do know each other. So why is Clara acting weirdly?
Why are they acting weird?
The Doctor always acts weird anyway. But as well within character, we don't know there's been any memory loss or whatever at this point, do we?
And then
you find that out, but
you find out, and then sort of think, oh, hang on, well, based on that scene, who's lost the memory, and you don't quite know what's going to happen at that point. And I suppose it is it is a lot to ask of the viewer. Again, a bit like with Heaven Sent, if this was your first one, which chances are for a lot of people it's not, but there will be someone who this is their first one. It could go either way. You'd be drawn in and think, what's going on here, or you're just immediately going to think, what the hell is going on here, and switch off.
There is a lot of continuity in Hellbent, isn't there?
Yeah, but
we'll come to that.
I sort of, it's like people say, MCU films, rely too much on the lore and stuff sometimes, and I kind of think when you've got 30 odd films into it,
you want to reward the fans.
Yeah, you've kind of got to assume at that point,
watching each one.
They know what's going on. Of course, there'll be someone who this is their first film, and there'll be some explanation and stuff. But I don't believe each film should be made to assume each viewer is a new one.
Quite right.
And on that note, when people say the Marvels is too confusing because you've got to watch Miss Marvel and WandaVision, possibly Secret Invasion, to understand it. I think
Secret Invasion.
It's okay. I think it was COVID ruined,
anyway.
but it's so that's not okay. But it's all right to watch Endgame, where you need to know Ant-Man's
Endgame
journey up to that point.
Everything.
So my point is, it's funny when it's a film predominantly with women where it's a problem.
What are you saying, Geoff? You're saying there's some
I don't know.
going on there?
What am I saying?
Seems to be what
why
you're
don't
implying.
Why don't you
Surely
tweet
not.
us in and tell us?
Tweet us and let us know. Do you know what? I know what you're saying, because and it is one of these things. As a fan, right? And I see this argument online. How is the casual viewer, the non-fan, the not we? How are they supposed to suddenly get into this story? And I think partly it's because as fans, we know all of that continuity, so we we see it, we pick it up. But I'll tell you now, when I first watched Guardians of the Galaxy, first one, I hadn't really watched any of those MCU films at all. Because we did the podcast on it. And I got the story. I maybe didn't get where the Infinity Stone come from and all that sort of stuff, but it did not affect a single piece of me enjoying that story at all. Doesn't really, if the story is written well enough, yes, it's great for the fans because they will pick up on that stuff. But if it exists as its own thing in its own right, with a strong story hook and a beginning, middle, end, and a structure and all the rest of it, a really good plot, interesting characters, you don't need to have watched the other stuff. You can go back and watch it later and then come back to it and go, that's what that is.
Yeah,
like with WandaVision, when I watched WandaVision, I hadn't seen what is it, Age of Ultron, which introduces Wanda into the MCU and all the other bits and bobs. I had no idea. I hadn't even seen Endgame, so I didn't even know about the blip, to be honest, right? Just everybody kind of reassembled. Anyway, we're not talking about MCU. We're talking about Doctor Who. If you want to hear MCU, check out our other podcast, MCU C2C. Yes, there is more.
It's branded.
There's a lot. Anyway, Hellbent.
So we then go back to Gallifrey, don't we?
We kind of flip between the
we do.
So there's a bit of a story framing device, isn't there? The Doctor seems to be telling Clara about this person called Clara and what's recently happened. We think we'd actually hear the words, so we're not entirely sure if what we're seeing on screen on Gallifrey is exactly the story that he's telling.
Good point.
I think there is a thing. Actually, I think she does mention the cloisterate or something at some point, so maybe she is. But so we have to assume this, which is kind of weird. Because obviously if the Doctor's forgotten this, then how does he remember to tell the story? Anyway, whatever. Let's not worry about that.
Well, he forgot her, didn't he? Not the thing. So, on Gallifrey, he...
yes, good point. There's a Clara-shaped hole in his head.
Yeah, that's it. So he's being a bit... he's on Gallifrey, super stroppy, he don't really talk. It's a little bit like...
which is kind of allowed.
Clint Eastwood spaghetti western, he's proper furious, at this point, and he's ignored Clara's advice to be the Doctor, not be the War Doctor, essentially, and he goes back to his barn, doesn't he? His childhood barn,
the barn, Day the Doctor, and Listen.
And a woman comes in and there's a sort of silent exchange between them, and didn't know whether it was supposed to be his mum, or
it's not his mum.
She's a foster parent, isn't she?
Something. She has lots of other. I think there's an implication. There's lots of others.
Yeah.
Like an
orphanage or something, yeah. Which adds a bit more mystery.
I like it. Yeah, and I think also in Listen, is that not kind of implied as well? That's where he is as a boy during that episode.
Yeah, he is, and I can't remember whether it's implied that it's an orphanage or not.
Something like
that. I think he runs to the barn to try to sleep or something, doesn't he? I can't really remember.
He sees images of this scary thing. But hold on, right? Actually, apparently, is it related to the hybrid? Anyway, we'll come back to that. But this. So this character, this woman who comes out and sort of realizes the Doctor is back, and I don't know, how do you feel about her? That because do you know what? Right, there was something until I watched it again last night. But Doctor Who has a history of the yokel, right? The mummer. We got
Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel.
Pigbean Josh, I think was it Claws of Axos? The third Doctor story, anyway, something like that. And it's this character, right, who is country bumpkin, and they all look exactly the same. They all wear the same clothes. They all speak the same way, except they don't in the modern day. They speak more like they just wandered off the EastEnders backlot or something. And it's just, I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, I'm getting really wound up by this. This is just... I mean, we're on Gallifrey, for Christ's sake. We're on Gallifrey. We're on an alien advanced planet. And I know out in the wilderness beyond the capital, things are slightly more primitive, okay? And we've got a whole bunch of shobogans and what have you. But come on, right? An old lady in a shawl in a freaking barn?
She just makes me think of Cletus.
Sci-fi show, for crying out loud.
Do you know who I mean?
Sci-fi.
In the
Come
Simpsons.
On. Oh, my goodness.
When
we're in a barn. Oh, it's the Doctor. The Doctor is back. Go over and tell everybody. Let's go make some soup. Or at least, it's playing on the Western thing. You got a barn and Doctor's back. Tell everybody. Ring the bells.
It's a bit like that. Tiffany, Heather, Cody, Dylan, Dermot, Jordan, Taylor, Brittany, Wesley, Rumour, Scout, Cassidy, Zoe, Max.
Oh, it's like the Waltons, isn't it? You're putting me in mind of the Waltons now. Do you remember the Waltons?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
Do you do? Vaguely? Yeah. Big thing. It's pulling from that, and okay, it's fine, and I shouldn't get so wound up about it. But
it's supposed to be the sort of backwaters, isn't it? Outside the citadel, the glowing citadel.
But, she comes out dressed in shawls. And
it was okay. I mean, I never really sort of questioned it really
Josh any day
till you said that. So yeah, he's
the Doctor
the Doctor literally draws a line in the sand. Doesn't
I love that. I love that moment. You've glanced over now what is for me the ultimate SFX shot.
Yes, you tweeted about that.
I did, because I love it. And I remember the first time I watched this, I thought, wow, if I could snap this shot and send it back in time to my 9-year-old self and say, watch Doctor Who,
coming.
It ends up looking like this, then that 9-year-old would have been jumping for joy. And he was inside me right now, because I still love that shot with the gunship just coming down, and the tiny little Doctor, and you got the minigun kind of facing it like that on you, and it's sort of just floating around.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant
it's a really
shot.
good shot.
As someone replied to me on that tweet actually, and they said it just encapsulates Doctor Who in a single frame. The Doctor, one small guy facing up to the might of the oppressors and the machines and the weapons, and he hasn't got anything. He hasn't even got a gun. He hasn't even got a spoon, because he left his spoon near his soup. All he does is he draws a line in the sand with his heels, and that gunship kind of backs off, doesn't it? It's brilliant. And then, I love that. Let it go on record right now. It's a fact.
It's a bit like Cap and just his shield standing against Thanos.
Back to MCU again.
Yep, back to MCU.
Except the Cap's built like a brick shithouse, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's been souped up with super soldier serum. The Doctor is just the Doctor. And the only thing he has is up here. Yeah. This is why Doctor Who is great, because, it means we don't all have to be Mr. Beefcake, right? Yeah. We don't all have to go down the gym 20 times a week and eat lots of muscle power, right? Or be injected by super serum. We can literally be anybody. As long as we hold true to the morals of the Doctor, we can always defeat the bad guys.
And then what follows is a brilliant example of that, of the Doctor, that what the Rassilon says, it's his words, that's the weapon.
Words are his weapon.
Yeah, and he inspires those, the soldiers to join him by not needing to say anything.
And it's a great moment leading up to that, because obviously they send delegations to the barn, don't they?
Yeah.
Of increasing hierarchical value. So then we get the gunships are gone. We just get the people, the soldiers. Doctor doesn't want to talk to them, so they go. And then we get is it like the Time Lords?
Yeah,
and
they
doesn't want to talk to them. And that's a great moment, because they it's like, okay, let's show the Doctor some respect. They sort of bow, and then by the time they come back up, the Doctor's gone back into the barn, doesn't want it. And then we finally we get Rassilon, played by Donald Sumter, who has been in Doctor Who before. He was in the Sea Devils in 1970-something, 72, 73, as a submarine captain.
Yeah.
And he was young, and he had lots of dark hair and big bushy eyebrows and a very striking
look like he
face.
does
He's
now.
still got a striking face.
He has. He's very
has a lot of presence.
Stern and authoritative. Yeah, he's quite scary.
He's quite scary. And when you think the last time we saw Rassilon in Doctor Who was with Timothy Dalton, wasn't it? Played by Timothy Dalton, which was astonishingly good. That was when I jumped for joy. Oh, bloody Timothy Dalton! I was kind of hopeful. It might have been him again, but not for reasons. But Donald Sumter does a great job as a very angry, very stressed Rassilon, who is being properly tested by the Doctor just being there. I love that, and I have to say at this point as well, the whole idea of Rassilon being resurrected, and he calls himself, "I am Rassilon the Resurrected." You just need the spitfly, Timothy Dalton wise. It's there. So and I think there's a great story to be told about why Rassilon was resurrected, because we don't see that happen. I don't know if it happens in a Big Finish story with the Time War, the War Doctor, the War Master, or whatever. It might well do. I haven't heard it, but I love the fact that the Gallifreyans at some point, the Time Lords, have resurrected their figure of legend. Rassilon is the heart of all Time Lord mythology, and of course the first time we saw him really was the Five Doctors. When he appeared as this kind of mustachioed, "This is the game of Rassilon. Who dares defy my tomb?" That kind of thing.
That sort of thing, yeah.
But it's great to see him as just a bloke, a very powerful bloke, who is seriously threatened by just the Doctor being there.
Yeah. Also, there's a mention of Shibogans or something.
Shibogans, yes. The outcasts of Gallifrey, or the indigenous people.
Yes, which we later find out in the Timeless Children were what Gallifreyans were originally.
Yeah. But that goes right back to the Tom Baker days. I think it was it's either the Invasion of Time or the Deadly Assassin. I can't even remember which, but one of those that first mentioned the Shibogans.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of made up by Douglas Adams or Tom Baker, which means it probably was the Invasion of Time. But anyway, because that's when we first saw the outside the capital in Gallifrey, Invasion of Time, because Leela is banished from the capital. And she goes out and she finds all the outcasts and the Shibogans and what have you. I think memory serves. I could be wrong.
I think I looked it up because I thought, I recognise that name. Yeah. So it goes from this kind of standoff bit, doesn't it? Western Mexican standoff. Like you said, it keeps cutting backwards and forwards with the stuff in the diner, and then. I can't remember how it ends up. So that they take the Doctor in, don't they?
Right. Okay. So the Doctor, in facing down Rassilon, says to him, "Get off my planet." Like that. He just wants him gone. That's it. And then the other the Time Lord soldiers, the Capital Guard, or whatever they are, cross over the wall, drop their guns and cross the line to stand with the Doctor. Yeah. And then before you know it, after much fury and threatening with his magic Rassilon, glove of Rassilon, whatever it is, Infinity Gauntlet, all of that, right?
It's more like half of one, because you can see his palm underneath it.
We next see the shuttle sort of exiting rather rapidly the capital, and I think the High Council of Time Lords follows, and then the Doctor is now welcome into the community of Time Lords as their Lord President.
Sisterhood of Khan.
The Sisterhood of Khan. So it's O'Healer, isn't it? She she came in before the whole Rassilon thing, and she's kind of needling him. You know, it's the Doctor. You know, he's back, and you know that sort of thing. And that's quite a nice throwback to the start of series 9. Because there was that sort of epilogue to The Magician's Apprentice where the Doctor goes to Khan, where the Sisterhood live and do their sacred fire, sacred flame, sacred fire, sacred flame, and do their dance and stuff like that. Which, you know, so it ties in nicely. And of course, we saw in the time of the Night of the Doctor,
that's it,
which is good. And I can't remember if it was the Day of the Doctor, but yeah, it's good. I kind of, the Sisterhood are whatever, but she fills, I don't know, I was going to say she fills a role here, but I don't know what that is, particularly apart from to provide a bit of commentary on what's kind of going on dynamically between the Doctor and Rassilon, perhaps.
Yeah, a bit of
sort of needle him a little bit, you know. Because the Sisterhood aren't really friends of the Doctor as such. I think they sort of tolerate him, but, you know, they quite easily kill him if they want.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
If he was in the way of whatever they wanted, they'd do him in, and they're working to their own agenda. Yeah. So... And it's a shame we never really got more of that, possibly. No. Unless you think the Sisterhood of Khan is really dull, which I would forgive you for thinking that.
No, I think I quite like that they're sort of a bit mysterious and sort of somewhat magical, but it's never really explored. But I think it might be more on Big Finish, but
I think there is.
Not the show.
Well, looking at what Big Finish got, they've got this Dark Gallifrey.
Yeah, that's coming out.
Which, looks interesting. I don't know if I might indulge, or maybe not, or it could just be a load of.
Well, I'm waiting for the Quinn dilemma, which is the 6th Doctor anniversary celebration that's got Mrs. Clark and Flip back in it as well.
I do like the 6th Doctor already.
So I'm
good.
Anyway, for that
sorry.
This
So yes, the Doctor is reinstated as Lord President. He's got his way in with the Time Lords, and he wants something now, doesn't he?
Yes, he wants them to help him bring Clara back. They are not too keen on it because laws of time or something or other. He doesn't care.
Well, do you know what? I thought they were kind of okay with it, really, because they let him do it. And cause we don't see that conversation, do we? We just see the effect of it. So we see we revisit the face the Raven. Not the face of the Raven. That's a whole other different story. Face the Raven, FTR. So we're back in that, and the Doctor kind of opens this door, and Clara's all confused and all.
Yeah, there's some nice
some diffusion going on.
Stuff going on there. And he takes her hand and pulls her in, and she thinks it's a TARDIS, isn't she? But it's Gallifrey, and then
it's an extraction chamber.
Yeah, that's
apparently what it is. And we have seen the Time Lords pull people out of time before. They've done it to the Doctor. They obviously done it to the Master, and they probably did something to Rassilon as well. So they go in and snatch people. And obviously this is kind of de rigueur for the Time Lords because, you know, there's a process in place, right? We normally tell them first, Doctor. You must tell her. Because that what's happened, basically, because obviously there's a clause. Extraction chamber use, code of use, 1, must tell the person that is being extracted that they are being extracted. 2,
because
ensure to import to person being extracted the importance of them being extracted from time, and yet that they must also actually be returned. 3, ensure they realise they will be returned and will have to face death. 4, make this absolutely really clear and repeat. That sort of thing, I imagine. We'll see that big clause, that big contract.
Something like that. Well,
it's probably on the back of the loo or something.
Yeah.
You know, they're going for a quick week before they extract somebody, and they can just stand there or sit there and just read, you know, the terms of use, extraction chamber terms of use. And, you know,
whilst you're in the extraction
code of conduct. See what you did? That's good.
So Clara's quite... you know, she'd accepted that, you know, her time through her own doing was up.
We a long time before this, to be honest. But, anyway.
And but for, you know, her fans, what a treat! Thank you, Moffat. You brought her back the one time.
Yeah,
the
good for Clara fans.
Yeah.
Because by this time the show is pretty much all about Clara.
It is, yeah. And it's funny how I lost interest after this series, wasn't it?
It's funny how I lost interest during this, but anyway,
no, I didn't really. And she's, you know, she wants to know what's happened. You know, how am I here? You know, how am I living? And you know, I quite like that. You know, she's like a heartbeat away from death there, and sort of paused, and the breathing is just an automatic thing that doesn't mean anything anymore.
It's all time loops. They're not too deep into metabolic processes or anything, but it's fine.
Yeah,
it's cool.
it's
Whatever.
sort of waved
We'll
away, and part of the contract is that she has to go back to Gallifrey at some point.
She has to go back to Trap Street.
That's it, Trap Street. Yeah, you're right.
And face her death and
face the
clause
Raven
4
again
of the Code of Conduct, Extraction Chamber Code of Conduct.
Clara obviously thinks balls to that, and
I don't know though. Does she?
Well, she's going to do it the long way round,
some point,
at some point, which is quite clearly never. Never o'clock on the never of never day. Neverary.
So there's a story there to be told of somebody going after her and making it happen.
Well, possibly, yeah. Get on it, Big Finish.
Hunting Clara down through time and space. Oh, that's my story. I claim that. Big Finish, do it then.
Get on it, Paul.
To my lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. There's quite a lot of opportunity. As long as it doesn't involve me, as in the character of me, then I'll be happy with it.
Yeah, you're not a fan of
not
me
really.
Unless are you?
Unless someone else does it. I mean, we just talked about that
we talked about her in the previous one, so we don't need to do too much.
She's boring.
Says, now, look, I'm going along with the whole Clara thing here, right?
Yeah.
So just be mindful. That's all I'm saying to you, my friend.
After this, by the way, we need to do the long-promised Thasmin series.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, because that'll be good.
AKA rewatch series 11, 12, and Flux.
I'm up for that.
Yeah, so we need to do that. Clara sort of I don't know how she feels about the being brought back. I think there's probably a part of her that's kind of intrigued by it, and certainly by the end she's accepted it, and it's given her this opportunity. But
I think also it's something she didn't have any control over or any.
Yeah, she's angry about it,
and she's a control freak.
Yes,
she needs to be in control, and she does work it through so that she is in control.
Yeah.
Which is
but
good.
initially, she's not overly pleased. I don't think.
Which is fine in a way. You can't just do these things to people without their consent.
Yeah, and as she had accepted, this is my time, and now it's not her time. So
this is the Doctor behaving badly on a lot of fronts. Firstly with Rassilon, and now with Clara, and the whole thing is just because he's furious with the way that the Time Lords, in setting a trap for him in Face the Raven, basically killed Clara as, like you said, collateral damage, wasn't she? And they don't even think about her. She's nothing to them.
No.
But he's absolutely everything to her at this point.
Yeah.
And it's the sole reason that is driving his fury and pushing him to the edge to do things that the Doctor doesn't normally do. And of course, he's been away for 4 billion years, right? And he's been copied. So, that image of the Doctor is probably being reduced right down to something very diminished.
And, he does things that, he wouldn't normally do, like shooting another Time Lord, to make them regenerate.
Doctor would never do that. The War Doctor might. But again, weapons, his words are weapons. Weapons are his words. That's one thing the Doctor doesn't do. Oh, okay. Yeah. He checks that the General has many regenerations left before he does it. But he still sees it upon himself to take one. It's interesting, isn't it? Because that's kind of how that's written, right? As a writer, you don't have to write it that way. There can be a stun setting on the gun. Because the whole point of this is that the General is just out of action for a few minutes, giving the Doctor and Clara time to make a swift exit, stage left. But does it need to be a regeneration? There's got to be a point for the Doctor doing that, and I think it is literally to show that the Doctor is willing to do this. This is him crossing a line set by himself years and years ago, that he does not do guns, and yet he's willing to just literally pick it up and take, again, without the General's consent, really. The General gives it kind of willingly because the General's at gunpoint. But it does leave that nice moment where the General kind of is regenerated as a black woman, and it's like, back to normal now. That's better.
Yes, that's it.
This is great, and I love that. It's a brilliant moment.
How do you do it with so much ego or something? She says, isn't she?
Yeah, the total complete opposite of a balding middle-aged white guy.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I love that, and it kind of sets things up for obviously the sort of regenerations that we see later on.
So after this point, they end up in the Matrix, don't they? And there's the cloister of
not
wraiths.
quite. they end up in the kind of it's like a lobby to the Matrix, isn't it? It's the cloisters.
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Yeah, that's where the cloister wraiths are going around.
Yeah. They sort of guard the Matrix. They guard the entrance.
Yes, that's it. Because the Matrix is
Matrix.
Under
Matrix
a hatch
is there. You're right, and its spirit, its influence kind of extends beyond the mere whatever circuitry or whatever that it's kind of made from. But yeah. It's or is it the amplified panatropic computer?
Something.
So which the Matrix is a part of.
What did you think about this section? I quite like the sort of creepy, cloister wraith things, and they were getting the obligatory Dalek and Cyberman cameo, and then there's a nice bit where Clara says something to the Doctor, doesn't she? And you kind of think, oh, what important message has she said that we don't get to hear? And then it's revealed. She said they'll be watching me. And
when they uncover the ceiling, the floor or something, the exit points. There's a bit of a story there, isn't there? So the Doctor tells the story of this somebody who dared to break in and got through and then exited somewhere else in the capital or something, and then of course it turns out it was him as a boy, which is quite a nice thing. A little bit more backstory for the Doctor, a bit more of his kind of upbringing.
And this is when he mentions, was it stealing the moon?
Stealing the moon,
president's wife,
running off with the president's wife, or something. But he didn't steal the moon; he was going to give it back, and the president's wife wasn't all that, or something. So it kind of implies a sort of slightly adventurous teenager,
naughty teenager,
possibly, But to answer your question, there are bits of this sequence that I like. I do like that story. And I do like the cloister wraiths as an idea. And I love that image where we get one up close, don't we? We just see the sliders, aren't they? And then we see the face like a television image, almost black and white. And it reminds me of that moment in The Five Doctors when all the Time Lords on the sides of Rassilon's tomb kind of come to life, and all you see is their eyes, and you hear their screams going. It freaked me out when I watched that, and this put me right back in that place.
That.
Yeah, what they?
Yeah.
That. Yeah. But as a story point, I don't think it makes an awful lot of sense, to be fair, but I don't think a lot of this makes an awful lot of sense story-wise. But anyway,
I think we can come to that, and then there's some stuff with me here, isn't there? And talk about the hybrid.
They keep jumping ahead. They have to steal a TARDIS first. That's the whole point of them breaking through, isn't it? Apparently, because they can get to the workshops.
Materialises around.
Why they have to go through the most terrifying, hellish part of Gallifrey's capital to get to the workshops is totally beyond me. But it does provide us with some nice, creepy moments.
Yes.
That's about it. That's all I've kind of got to say on that. So they get to the workshop. They steal a basic TARDIS because it's still its sort of cylinder form. And this again is another beautiful moment. I remember when this first came out, and I loved it because I loved seeing that old TARDIS. And I think they've done it before this for the 50th.
Yeah, it's in
An Adventure in Space and Time with David Bradley playing.
Oh, the interior, you mean?
Yeah, the interior. Yeah,
because we see that exterior look in. Time of the Doctor when Clara
Name of the Doctor
when she says to the first
don't
Doctor,
take that one, mate, take this one. It's knackered, but you'll have a laugh.
Just like that.
But anyway, you're right, and we saw them before that as Sid Rats in the War Games, and Patrick Troughton.
Sid Rats.
I don't know if they look quite the same, but they were pretty much that sort of, Yeah, because that's what they do. You just mix it up a little bit. Just reverse the words.
Yes, I got that. I'm looking up a Sid Rat. Yeah,
you're looking up Sid Rat. It's a real thing.
Yes, it is.
They literally reversed TARDIS because
Yeah, I got it.
Get a script out there. Don't care. We spent 2 days thinking what we're going to call these time machines. They can't be TARDISes. Well, they could be actually, but we're going to call them Sid Rats. Just go with it, Malk. We'll sort the rest out later.
Yeah,
forget about it. But there you go.
Could have been a better name for that.
Don't worry about it, Malk. Just write the bloody thing. Sorry, Terence.
Yeah, they get the TARDIS, don't they? Is that before or after we see me again.
No, it's because they're on their way to the end of the universe. They have to jump in the TARDIS to get to the end of the universe, to outrun the Time Lords, who are now going to be hunting the Doctor.
Yes.
So the only place they can run to is way, way beyond Gallifrey, because Gallifrey is in its own little end of time bubble.
That's it.
Thing. It's been pushed, further forward in time, billions of years in the future, so nobody can find it. So the Doctor has to go further than that, right to the very last moment of the universe, and there he finds me. She's the last, apparently, or possibly the last sole remaining thing left. Even the Immortals have gone, she says. I love that idea. So, people like the Black Guardian, the White Guardian, the Toy Maker, presumably, the Eternals, all those people, they've all gone. Yep. She's outlived all of them. And she still looks like Maisie Williams as a sort of 20-year-old. So that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
It's a good way to live your life. But, so there's this sort of exchange between them both where they kind of discuss the hybrid, and we kind of hope to get some payoff as to what the blazes was that all about. But do we get the payoff here? I don't know. Clara's watching, isn't she? She activates the scanner with the Doctor's sonic sunglasses.
Shades, yeah.
And so she hears everything. But there's this whole thing, and we have to address this now. We have to decide what is the hybrid. And it's been layered throughout this whole series. And I've seen a lot of chatter online as to what was it? Was it ever explained? Of course it was. It's this, it's that, or whatever. But it's not clearly explained here, is it?
It's one of those things
still left
that
open.
It is sort of explained, but it's done so in such a sort of almost throwaway way.
The Doctor's got an idea of what it is.
Yeah.
And Me's got an idea. She's got her own theory of what it is. So the Doctor's just going with the prophecies that it's two warrior races. The Time Lords believed in some way that it was half Dalek, half Time Lords.
Yeah.
That's what they look at warrior races. The Doctor says, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. And Me thinks, what if it was Time Lord and human, half one or the other? And that would actually mean it could be you and Clara.
Yes.
Which is a really nice idea, I think.
That was my in sort of interpretation of it at the end, and it is stated, but when sometimes you watch something and you're like, I know they've explained the thing in the end, but it's done so kind of brushed past that you're like,
because it no longer matters, does it?
It doesn't matter, and also it isn't made like a big deal of. Like, to me, it's a little bit of a J.J. Abrams type thing. You get these mysteries.
Well, at least there's some kind of payoff.
Well, yeah, or it's done like, oh yeah, by the way, blah 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 blah. Let's carry on with
here's
this.
a whole new bunch of stuff to think about.
And then you can see why people go, well, hang on, did they actually explain it? Well, they did, but it was dealt with in like 2 lines.
Yeah, and not very satisfactorily. I don't think.
I can see why people were a bit puzzled by it, and you kind of think, for something that's been sort of teased the whole time, there would be a bit more to it. It would make a bigger thing. At least with, Bad Wolf, for example, which is just a bit of graffiti, it becomes something more at the end, and you feel like
it's foreshadowed by the graffiti. The graffiti kind of gives us some sort of visual representation of that as we go through different stories. Yeah,
but at least it becomes something at the end.
Yeah, you're right.
And the same with Yana, and they become an event at the end, whereas the hybrid was just like, oh yeah, it's you and Clara,
and they move on.
And then we move on. Yeah.
But what I do like about it is kind of slightly beyond that surface, where the idea or the threat of the hybrid becomes its own becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
For Rassilon and the Time Lords.
Yeah.
Also the Doctor, but more the Time Lords, because so at the start of this season we have Missy gives the Doctor his confession dial, right, and that's a kind of thing that pays off in Heaven Sent, right, and because it imprisons the Doctor and everything else. But at that point we don't know what it is. But and then we first start hearing about this thing about about the hybrid, and then of course those two things come together when in Heaven Sent, the Doctor is locked into the confession dial in order for the Time Lords to kind of extract the information from him. They think he'll be terrified of it. You want to get out of here, so the only way he's going to get out is tell us what he knows about the hybrid. But obviously by doing that, right, now we've seen the Time Lords do some pretty dirty things in the history of the show, and we've seen them being pretty desperate enough to kill the Doctor. But this is the first time we've seen them actually physically want to torture the Doctor, and in the process of making it happen, have his companion killed, collateral damage, swatted away. Who's she anyway? We don't care. This is a really dark place for the Time Lords to go to. So they are so frightened of the hybrid that they would do this, right? Yeah. And they cross a lot of lines here in doing this.
And sort of make it in the process.
But in doing that, they create the hybrid because everything that happens after that, Heaven Sent and Hellbent and everything else, forces the Doctor to do what he does, to pull Clara away from death in the extraction chamber, to let her live that time-looped second between one heartbeat and the next, and then to go off with me, the woman at the end of the universe, in a TARDIS, to explore the whole of space and time and wreak havoc, chaos, destruction, whatever they want to do at their leisure. Their fear of the hybrid made the hybrid. So as a kind of philosophical idea, I love that. I think that's brilliant.
What an irony.
I think that is cracking. That ticks all the right boxes for me. But on the surface, it doesn't quite have the punch of that. It doesn't quite have the impact. It doesn't really pay off in a very satisfying way. But on the other hand, sorry, I was going to finish this here. I do like the idea of leaving it open to interpretation.
I think you're right. It doesn't pay it off brilliantly satisfactorily, but I think what comes next in the episode is really what the crux of the whole thing is about. I was going to say there's a bit where Me says about Missy giving the lady in the shop giving Clara the phone number. And
so did she see all this playing out? Perhaps did she instigate?
Maybe, or was she hired to do some of it? I must admit, a lady in a shop gave me the number. Lame. That's could have been
Bells of St. John, isn't it?
It's Bells. Yeah, I mean, so it goes back that far. I mean, it's a quick shorthand way of getting the Doctor and Clara together. Could probably have been a bit more to it, but at least there's an attempt to kind of pay that.
There is, and it also just raises the question of Missy's role in all this. Right? In that she threw Clara and the Doctor together. If Clara and the Doctor end up being the hybrid, she's kind of made that happen. She also gave the Doctor his confession dial. I can't quite remember whether she was doing that bit for the Time Lords. I sort of think she was.
Possibly, yeah.
But nonetheless, she was willing to go with it. And given how she kind of... manipulated Clara through, was it The Magician's Apprentice? What comes after that? Part 2, isn't it, when Clara goes into Dalek and stuff? The Witch is Familiar, that given what she does with Clara in that and how she sort of plays with her mind and gets her to do what she wants to do, just that sort of whole sort of almost gaslighty kind of thing that she does, it's and this is Clara, who's a really strong person, getting totally all her strings have been pulled by Missy throughout this, and we've seen the Master do this in in all kinds of different stories, but here the sheer kind of like level, the sophistication to plan something like that is quite extraordinary. So is that what Moffat's kind of getting at, that the Master would kind of foresee this and play events out and play people so that what happens because the Master / Missy is a lover of chaos and wants the Doctor? Is this not to have the Doctor tortured, right, for 4.5 billion years, to be thrown at this situation with the woman he really loves, right? Is it all just feeding the Master's kind of need to just make the Doctor suffer throughout all of this, to pull the Time Lords in, to pull Asylon in as collateral damage? Who makes this happen? Is it the Doctor in his fury, or is it actually Missy?
I think it's probably a little bit of everything, really, in the end, isn't it?
Or is it just Stephen Moffat just closing off lots of open story loops?
Well, it's that ultimately, isn't it?
I forgot about that. I've got to sort that one out. Sorry for anybody Scottish there. That was a terrible effort
accent.
There. I do apologise.
So we then get to kind of, like I said, the main part of all this with the Doctor and Clara.
Because this is what the story's really about. All that Time Lord stuff, that's just fuff, really. And none of it makes any sense. There's very little plot logic.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for Gallifrey stuff, as I was during this, you're going to be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah.
So this is the story. Go on, Geoff. The floor is yours.
Is...
I was going to sit back now and just...
the Doctor... the Doctor driven to all of this, but for, essentially the love of, his love for Clara and their relationship and everything. And, you see how important she is to the 12th Doctor, but also, all the other incarnations across time. We've seen her, you're talking to the First Doctor about the TARDIS and helping the Fourth, and all the other times we've seen her splinters and everything. I said before, I think in many ways she's the most important companion of them all to the Doctor. Going back to when he was a boy and shaping things about fear and bravery and stuff like that. And has been there all these kind of key moments across the timeline. So it's sort of no wonder that he went to these lengths to avenge her and bring her back and stuff. So she's in this perpetual kind of life or kind of half-life, really, isn't she? At this point, but he's got the, what does he call it? It's the thing that it's going to wipe her memory, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's a memory
neural
wiper.
Something or other.
Yeah, memory wiper.
Yeah.
And she adjusts it, doesn't she, when he's out talking to me?
She tells him she's adjusted it, so she's fiddled with it using a sonic. We don't really know she has or not. She's reversed the polarity. He doesn't seem like he believes her.
Yeah, you're not quite sure. Which way this is going to go. It's a bit like the two glasses of wine and one of them might be poison. You sometimes get,
Yeah, and this is a really good facet of Clara that we see here, because this is like Clara doing. This is Clara as the Doctor was at the start of Heaven Sent, almost. Not perhaps driven by fury, but driven by almost like a desperation, right? Because she's that close to death, right? And the Doctor wants to take her memories away from her, and she tells us that he doesn't have the right, and she deserves at least that. And she makes this really passionate, sort of defense for why she needs to keep her memories. And this kind of really focuses Clara here. So she's almost like doing what the Doctor does. It's weird. Whether she's improvising or whether she actually did do the nano thing doesn't really matter. It's this moment, this scene, I think is utterly electrifying.
Oh, it's brilliantly played, and the memory wipe's got to happen to prevent the hybrid thing, isn't it? That's why
probably
it needs to be done.
Whatever.
Pretty sure that's the reason.
Yeah, maybe.
And it feels to me like. This is a similar theme to the end of Series 4.
Look at that.
You are. Yeah, you're earthquake. It's a similar theme to the end of Series 4 where, Donna has her memories wiped. But this is sad as well, but it feels like, it just feels different, doesn't it?
Better, different, better?
Better, different, like more
I agree.
Justified in it happening. And why the Doctor says he needs to wipe her memories and stuff. It's
there is a reason for it.
There is a reason other than sort of doing it.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
but if I don't do this, you're dead, Donna. You're so dead, and I'm so sorry. Don't you dare come at me with that hand. Don't you? I'm so sorry. I don't want to go. Sorry, go on.
So there is more justification for it, and then of course
sorry, it was delayed.
You're not taking this seriously.
I am, because I love this scene. I'm sorry, I'm going to.
And then the tables get turned by Donna, by Clara.
Can
you imagine if that happened? And then it's just the bit where you don't quite know what's happened for a moment, and then it's clear that the Doctor's memories are fading.
It's a good moment.
How does Capaldi do it? You can see it in his eyes that she's disappearing, and Jenna plays it beautifully. So many scenes between them,
both of them.
Like I said, just electric. Like the bit in Face the Raven where she's saying to him, go and be the Doctor and do this, and they're just there's a real love between them on and off screen, I think, and it's just excellently played, and I even now watching it back last week, you know, it still kind of brought a tear to my eye, you know, that bit where he's, you know, like I said, you can almost see his memories of Clara disappearing, and
Jenna's blubbing at this point, isn't she? She's got the old waterworks going,
you know, because she's having to say goodbye. Well, you know, she remembers it all, but she's having to say goodbye to, you know, her best friend and, you know, the one that she loves. And I know people think that, you know, it was a toxic relationship, and in some ways it is, but I think it's still driven by, you know, a love for each other, and sometimes that's what, you know, relationships are like. You know, there's ups and downs and stuff like that. You know, it's not all just kind of friends and frivolity the whole time. You know,
I quite like the frivolity.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's kind of, you know, the show is built around kind of hope and optimism and joy and stuff. But, you know, I did really like
this part of the show, not these years.
No, this isn't. No,
almost
which
complete opposite.
Yeah, which is why, and I think I said last episode, you know, it's funny that I like this lot so much, and I think it's because of their relationship in many ways. You know, it is very dark here. You know, so yeah, you know, so now when we go back to the diner, it's clear, you know, that the Doctor's lost his memories of Clara, but there's something in there. You know, he remembers her name and all that, but you know, like you said, he's got a Clara-shaped hole, and he's playing her melody, you know, on his guitar, which is a bit fourth wall breaking.
It's quite a bit of that going on throughout these years.
There is, he looks at the camera, you know, a couple of times, doesn't he? And it's quite a nice moment between them in the diner there, you know, where he sort of then goes off on his adventures again, doesn't he? And she can rest safe knowing that he's okay, you know, and will go on even without that knowledge of her.
He makes that guff, doesn't he, where he recognises having been in the diner before and thinks that, you know, Clara was here or something. Then
and he thinks about Amy and
it was
Rory,
Amy and
didn't
Rory.
he? Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
which I thought was kind of sad in a way, because it's like, you know, when he sort of, you know, you think he's getting old. You know, this Doctor is now 4.5 billion years older in some way, possibly, even though he sort of reinvented it, whatever. You know, and he's clinging on to almost like the vestiges of the Doctor, and Clara's one of his linchpins. You know, she's the thing that keeps him driven, and you know, he has a duty of care towards her, and as he says, and that sort of keeps that relationship kind of going. But of course, she sees that she has a duty of care to him as well. So he's becoming the Doctor, or he's losing becoming the Doctor. Clara's gaining becoming the Doctor. It's almost like the energy has kind of been siphoned out of him and into her in some sort of way. And then here, you know, that expression where he can't quite remember which companion it was that he was here last, and then just gets that. You know, it's one of those moments. It's kind of understated and nothing's made of it, but I think it says a lot about where the Doctor is at that point.
Yes, it does.
How damaged he is. And then Clara just kind of gives him a look and just walks away from it all, right? So she flies off with me. And it just kind of makes me think, you know, and that Clara, in becoming the Doctor, has been changed by it. And she's almost like a sort of negative image. She's like an inverse version of the Doctor. You know, she's got all... You know, she understands why he does what he does, and she's been involved in some of those decisions, like we saw in Kill the Moon, and in sort of running the show, like we saw with Flatline. But it's almost like, you know, in running away from herself and away from her grief with Danny Pink and that, and, you know, sort of even latching onto the Doctor even more, she's kind of inheriting his less attractive qualities. Yeah. You know, like I said, I think it was in our Heaven Sent, or might have been Face the Raven, I found Clara a bit smug and condescending. And she is. But then, of course, so is the Doctor at points as well. You know, especially the 12th Doctor. He can be very smug and incredibly condescending. So can the 6th and the 5th, the 4th. You know, all of them throughout
it's a trait,
the show have been like that. But it seems that's the bit that Clara's kind of picked up on and in some way kind of amplified. So it is toxic in some ways. Now, the thing that kind of worries me is that, you know, Clara still needs healing at the end of this, you know, and who's she got? Well, she's running off with me, who doesn't care about anyone, you know, she even names herself after me, I'm me, you know, so there's a very kind of egocentric pillar of force at the heart of that new relationship. So Clara, for somebody who is kind of about control, and likes to be in control, is a very confident woman, and just has this need, or just the kind of running away from who she really is. We don't know who Clara really is, and I wonder if Clara really knows who Clara really is.
Or probably not.
Is the real
point.
Clara kind of just buried in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Protected by these layers of other selves that she's had to kind of assume over the words. She is the ultimate chameleon, but the trouble is with all of that is we don't know who that person really is, and I think at the heart of it there is a real tragedy about Clara being that way and remaining unhealed at the end of this. Yep, she gets to live on and everything else. There's a tragedy in the fact that she dies as collateral. There's a tragedy also in letting her live on. And there's a deeper tragedy in that at the end of that, all she seems to have really inherited is the kind of, some of the darker elements of the Doctor's personality traits.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, for her, she gets to live a life, quote unquote, that she wanted, to be like the Doctor. She's got her own TARDIS and a companion, and can't die, and can go and explore the universe and have all of that. But yeah, she hasn't sort of been healed. But it's still quite a recent traumatic thing to have come back to from the brink of death like that. And also it's sort of the way she kind of makes sure that the Doctor is okay, albeit not remembering her, and then sends him on his way, and then she goes.
Wait,
and
she abandons him in the middle of the Nevada desert.
Yeah,
so she dematerializes the diner around him, and he's.
But it's quite
on his own.
It's quite.
The TARDIS is the actual TARDIS is there, isn't it? I beg your pardon. I almost forgot.
Yeah, because it's got the painting of her and the flowers on, and they crumble away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's quite a Doctor thing, really, and like you were saying, she's sort of the inverse of the Doctor, and that is there. The Doctor leaves people, but this time he gets left.
Absolutely.
So it flips around, and I think she's a very, it's a very complex character in many ways, and she's very likeable, adventurous, and smart and fun, and quippy and all of that. But she's there's unlikable elements as well, but then so does the 12th Doctor have that. He has to use cue cards, for goodness sake, to be kind to people.
But that whole thing as well with the cue cards, right? So this is like Clara's solution. This is Clara's way of helping the Doctor understand emotions and be a little bit more empathic towards people. So she devises the idea of cue cards. The Doctor, who's almost like an innocent in this in some ways, just goes along with it, right? But cue cards is not the ideal solution. So that points at the fact that Clara's kind of damaged as well. She needs someone to help her be more empathic and everything else, So the fact that you've got two very unempathic people kind of feeding off each other, revolving around, orbiting around each other in this way, and going out and causing chaos and becoming the hybrid, the thing that's going to threaten the Time Lords and everything else. I love that idea. I mean, Clara, I've never really warmed to Clara. I don't enjoy the same way that you do and Heather does and all the other Clara fans. I love Jenna Coleman, and I do think the character is brilliant, but I don't have to like her to get everything the character's about. And I like the fact that I don't like her because she isn't the standard Doctor Who companion.
Yeah, and I think that was very clearly the plan here, that she was complex, damaged, weird, but had the classic companion traits as well. And I think, Jenna, I think, is an excellent, exceptional actress.
She really is.
And I think that it's that, and the fact that Clara is so kind of multifaceted is what draws me to the character.
But I do wonder how much of this was designed. There's nothing wrong with having a character description evolve as you kind of write for them over many years. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think Jenna's just the sort of actor who can really pull it off and dive in and pull these things out. I think it makes for some very dark episodes of Doctor Who.
And I've said before, series 8 and 9 I think are increasingly dark, and I can see why it was difficult viewing for some people, while they prefer Series 10, where it's a kind of a reset and it's lighter, and Bill is a lot more kind of just
but look what happens to
straight.
Bill at the end of it, man.
Well, yeah, so I say that, yeah, but then, that's, pretty bleak.
But she doesn't die either.
No.
Oh.
So, for me, I think often I like, an actor, and I like a character, and I can sort of, I like Clara, but the toxic traits of her, I think, make her as well, and
Yeah, I agree.
Someone in real life who was a bit like that, yeah, you might be like, I find her really hard to kind of get along with a lot of the time, but because it's a TV show, it's a bit different, and I like that, I like that she's doctory, that she's brave and adventurous and crazy, and that she was reckless, and then kind of faced up to the fact that, well, I've done this and it's my time now, and then she gets this kind of second chance again there to, well, for third or fourth or fifth, to be who she wanted to be. She took all that from the Doctor, but is perhaps not in a perfect position for it. I'd love it if Big Finish did more with her, or
depends what they're gonna do. I think.
Yeah,
personally, I like my idea, and I might. Yeah, I'd
maybe
do that,
you should. I mean, there's
I
a
think,
lot to explore with her, and it
yeah.
should be more than just straight up adventures. I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we need to heal Clara, so that when she eventually revisits Trap Street, she's in the right place for it.
Yeah.
So, because although she said in Hellbent that she's kind of ready to die, she wasn't really. It all happened by complete accident.
Yes.
And in her head, she almost rewrote her head in the way that we all do sometimes to kind of deal with things. To say, well, it's okay. I can deal with this now. I'm good. I can accept it. But that was quick.
Yeah.
So I think
she wasn't ready to die.
Yeah, exactly.
But accepted that this is what was going to happen. Yeah.
But I think, sorry, I was just going to say, what was I going to say now?
I was just going to say, if Clara needs healing, and I can heal Clara.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm glad you shared that with the world, my friend.
Can fix.
Personally, I think it was something that should have been said off air, but it's fine. We'll go with that. It's all good.
Well, let's move on from that declaration. Have we got some comments on this episode?
We do. We've got quite a few, actually. Okay, let's hear first of all, I think, from Joe Ford, who talks to us about Hellbent specifically. So let me just cue this up, and here we go. So this is what Joe thinks of Hellbent.
Well, hello, boys. My handsome boys.
Handsome boys.
Yeah. If you'd asked me about that about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said that was the most turgid bit of shit ever released under the Doctor Who banner. However, having recently rewatched and done a commentary on it, I now think it's only slightly turgid and crappy. I think it has some plus points. I think when Jenna Coleman and Peter Capaldi are together on screen, you really, really feel their chemistry in this. And their character work, the Doctor and Clara, it's the best thing about the entire 3-part finale. But it's the work that's done in this episode. All the stuff with the Time Lords is boring as hell. Sisterhood of Khan, Prophecies of Doom, Rassilon having a Mardy mood. Oh, how tedious. Also, the first 15 minutes can go in the bin as far as I'm concerned. But visually, it's quite interesting. I think it's got a lovely score. Once upon a time, I reviewed this on Doctor Who Reviews and I gave it 3 out of 10. Now I would give it a reasonable 6 out of 10, which is double the marks. I think this is okay. This is pretty good, and it's a grower, and it's one that you should probably watch again, sort of years after the event to formulate your opinion on it. But not a classic by any means, but pretty good. And I surprised myself.
Well, my takeaway from that. Thanks, Joe, for the voice note. My takeaway from that is that Joe is becoming a Clara fan. So I will take that.
Is that what you're leaving that with?
Yeah.
It interestingly raises the point about the cinematography, which is just beautiful throughout. Those scenes on Gallifrey are just gorgeous. They are gorgeous.
There's a couple of great CG shots as well on the Citadel where it rushes down through and stuff.
I didn't like those as much actually.
Really?
I thought the fakery in those was just really, really obvious.
Yeah, I mean they're obviously CG. I'm not normally.
I know, but it's like, it's just I don't know. That's really dramatic and everything else. It goes back to. When did we first see Gallifrey in a modern series? It was a Martha episode, wasn't it? No, it was
a glimpse in series 3.
No, I'll tell you what it was. It was the end of time when we saw Timothy Dalton as Rassilon. At the end of the part 1, it goes right through, does that same move, really fascinating, and we've seen it a few times since. Yeah. And it's just like I mean, personally, it might be because I'm an old git, but I find that sort of thing really fake and boring.
Yeah, I don't normally like...
If I was 5, I'd like, oh, yay, we're flying really quick through the air and now we're diving into the thing. Just spending money on something else. Make it look a bit more... credible. No, not even that. Just don't do that. I just hate all that. It's just so fake and it's not needed. I love the gunship, right? With the thing that had a reality to it and a solidity and a presence to it. And I thought it was a model on a crane or something. They'd sort of done some sort of thing with.
No, I think it was
CG. So I thought it was just
it's really good. Yeah,
and it doesn't move quick. It's a very static shot. But there is so much within that shot. Heading forwards into the capital through the glass, we get a little blah, 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 as the camera passes through the glass. Fuck's sake, just don't. Honestly, just spend your money doing something else, please.
Well, let's move on from that.
Sorry, that was a rant. It was going to happen at some point, wasn't it? Do you know, I really loved the first time I watched Hellbent. I loved it, and I loved the Gallifrey stuff more than I loved the Clara stuff. And then I watched it again not long afterwards, and I thought, that's a little bit dull, actually, and nothing makes sense. The story doesn't really get going. It's like it promises everything, but doesn't really deliver. And I hadn't watched it until last night for probably 4 or 5 years or something. And it was only last night when I watched it, I thought, this really isn't about Gallifrey. It's actually about the Clara story. That is what this is about. Yeah. I think when you look at it from those terms, then it makes sense. Everything kind of slots into place. And I think it's a wonderful, brilliant piece of writing from Stephen Moffat. I know, Stephen, you're listening to our podcast, and it's like,
can you come and have a chat?
I do love your writing. It frustrates me at times, but I cannot. I can't not acknowledge that it's sophisticated, it's clever, and it's mostly brilliant. There are sometimes I think it all falls a little bit flat, but actually it just means that you don't understand it yet. Yeah. Usually that's the thing.
Yeah, and his ambition with it all is massive, each time, I think.
But there is in Modern Who a kind of need to go massive, to go big, to show the big scale. I think that's wonderful and it's great. But I think those sort of flying shots into the capsule at Gallifrey, I don't buy those. Do you know when you compare something like that to the Centauran dockyard in Liverpool in Flux?
Oh yeah,
and look how sophisticated that shot is. It's equally eye candy. You take it out, doesn't really make much difference to the episode. But look at the credibility of it. The camera moves are not impossible camera moves, right? They're moves that actually show the scale of the thing.
Yeah.
And I get that in Gallifrey, we're diving right down into the cloisters and we get a sense of the depth, but I don't think we do, actually. I think it just looks like style over substance, which I think a lot of these episodes are. There's a lot of style over substance. And I think just focus a bit more on the substance rather than the style, and then we'd have, I think, better episodes, better stories. Is that too much? Did I go too far there?
No.
You've gone quiet.
I must say I don't normally like whizzy CG shots like in Fast and Furious where you fly through the exhaust and go through the engine. It's not possible.
See, I quite like those, bizarrely.
Really? So
yeah, but then the Fast and Furious is my guilty secret when
right. I've never
all my
seen
things about
any other
literary
than the
and whatever go
yeah,
out the window.
But so what?
But that's what they're about, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're unashamedly, popcorn films. Just go with it.
And if you're watching that and going, where's the political agenda in it?
There is a bit of a one in there, but it's not.
Okay, whatever. It's about
and
cars.
People are entitled to think that. They are entitled to
look
for those things. And films should be
but
applauded for carrying political agendas and being brave enough to do so.
Yeah.
But they don't have to. Right?
So did we have another voice note?
Yeah, we got loads, actually. So
Play
I'm
it,
gonna
DJ.
stop talking. this is actually from our good friend Heather Crossley, who supplied some really wonderful comments on Clara throughout all of these episodes. So I'm going to play, I think, this one. And if we played this before, I apologise. I don't think we have, because I think I was leaving it. But let's hear. It's going to start any moment now.
I'm waiting.
Ready? Any moment.
Yep.
What do I think about Clara? Personally, I think she is the best Doctor Who companion that there has been and that there ever will be. And there will not be another Doctor Who companion as good as Clara. What do I think of these episodes? Personally, they're 3 of the best Doctor Who episodes ever. And I mean ever. I've yet to watch these episodes without crying. And I still feel like it still hurts me all these years later. And it's like, it's not the first time that I've sat and watched Hellbent 2-3 times in the same day. Just because I don't want it to end. And it's like, just the whole way, obviously, the story arc goes. And it's like, essentially, Clara is basically the first female Doctor. Essentially. And it's like, do you know what? That's brilliant. To me, personally, I think that's brilliant. And it just showcases what an amazing actress Jenna Coleman really is. That all these years later, we still want her to go back to Doctor Who.
Yeah, Heather's right. Jenna is superb, and I think in some ways, she should perhaps be bigger than she is. You know, her work in The Cry, the Serpent, Wilderness, excellent. She's just brilliant in everything she does. Do we have a audio from Randy as well? We
do.
It was really interesting to go back and rewatch Clara's final arc on Doctor Who. The reason it really stuck out to me on rewatch is I had forgotten how concerned the show was with how many regenerations the Doctor had remaining. At the end of Matt Smith's run, they had kind of explained away the regeneration limit, and 12 was really concerned with how much longer he had to live. He wasn't sure if he now had unlimited regenerations or what. So to see him discover that time loop in Heaven Sent and experience a second of eternity, if you believe the fable, to experience that with Clara, the impossible girl, so close by, to know that he might be regenerating indefinitely, it really helps me understand how desperate his actions were. I know that there are some fans who wish that the Doctor and Clara connection hadn't been taken so particularly seriously because we've had so many lovely companions over the years. But I think it somewhat works for me here because he had reason to be particularly preoccupied with his own mortality in a way that he had never had to before. He knew about regenerations, but he had never considered infinite regenerations before. So it was really compelling on rewatch. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then is it clear whether he's got infinite regens at the end or not?
Well, I think that goes back to the time of the Doctor, doesn't it? When the Time Lords apparently or seem to grant the Doctor
at least
another
cycle,
regeneration cycle or
but
something.
Is it
They
unlimited?
just do a light show.
Yeah. But there's quite an interesting parallel there with Clara and the Doctor. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. You know, she can't die. I mean, you could get into, what if she was, tragically disintegrated. You know, I guess she would die then. But for all intents and purposes, she'll just go on and on and on. And will the Doctor go on and on and on? He doesn't know. So, yes, that's quite interesting. Yeah, thanks, Randy. He's a very good
Definitely.
I tweeted him the other day and I said we were saving his comment for the last episode.
It's been sitting on here. And I just can never quite figure out whether I just click on their names or I have to click play. It seems when I think I just have to click their names on my little list here, it won't play. So I have to press play. And yet, when I just click on their names, it will just play straight away.
Well, it keeps me in suspense. So
good. I'm glad it does you. Yeah. So, it's just basically just means I've got to look at this a little bit closely and just figure out what's going on.
I'm just going to read a couple of comments here.
Go on then, go for it.
So James Silv on X says, Hellbent is a mixed bag for me. The return of Gallifrey Rassilon and the hybrid arc didn't quite deliver, but God, the culmination of 12 and Clara's journey packed a punch for me. For me, theirs is the deepest love story of the entire show. I will die on this hill. And in fact, as I record now, James, I'm going to write back and I'm going to say, and I will join
you on
that
Death
hill,
upon hill.
And then over here, Vicky X Lee, she says, Clara is the best and worst thing to happen to New Who, but I would absolutely love to see her come back with Lady Me and their TARDIS too. Just do a spin-off already at BBC Doctor Who. And then AJP, who's at Universal Event, says, in a series that has been blessed with great actors, I think Jenna is right up there. In 5 decades watching the programme, she gave one of the best performances I have ever seen when she faced off with Half-Face Man in the cellar. Electric.
Ooh,
yes, that was
good.
very
Deep
good.
breath.
Very good. Yeah.
Best part of that for me.
Yeah. Nicholas Moore says the hybrid is a great thematic idea that everyone wanted to be literal. No, I don't miss Clara or want her back because this story sent her off perfectly and her time on the show said all there was to say with her. Yeah, I mean,
I'm kind of with that, and to a degree, possibly. Apart from that, healing.
Well, I am.
And being hunted through space and time by angry
surely it's time for Big Finish to, pony up and get Jenna back.
Pony up.
I need my goddamn Clara.
You do. You need that Clara fix. Don't you?
I need more. I mean.
So, would you rather have more? Would you rather have Clara on Big Finish or River Song on Big Finish?
Clara.
We've got loads of River Song out there, though. There's loads of River Song content.
I don't need River Song with what's Rose's mum called? Jackie Tyler. That's who wants that?
Oh, dear.
I just need Clara.
That's interesting about the best companion. So both Heather and was it James? Did you say had tweeted?
Yeah,
saying that she's one of the best companions of the modern. I agree. Actually, I think
she is. Even warts and all. I was just going to share this. I was sent a Clara Magic card from Frudas here, who's one of our followers. And actually, I'd like to read out.
Clara Oswald.
She sent a little note
for
here.
Audio listeners, Geoff has just
Amy.
held up a card with a picture of Clara on it.
In her Face the Raven outfit, hanging out the TARDIS. Geoff, I hope you enjoy the cards as much as I enjoy the podcast. It's a real beacon of positivity.
Hey.
Thank you for the badge. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Exactly what we are going for with the podcast. So thank you for listening and supporting. And to everyone who listens and supports as well. So I guess that is the end of the Death of Clara series. I'm going to now go away and plot how I can do more episodes about Clara, whether Paul likes it or not. And we'll be back very soon with more on Who Corner to Corner.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
GTFN.
Until next time, bye for now.